episode 5 of our Double Trouble podcast with me, Joji, and my co-host.
Masaki, hello, hello.
Well, I identify myself as a hafu, as you say in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
How do you identify yourself, Masaki?
I would identify myself as Japanese because I am, both of my parents are Japanese. So, that makes me, biologically speaking, Japanese. So, yeah.
But you have American culture seeped into you. You speak English just as well as you speak Japanese. How do you, if someone asks you, well, aren't you half American? How do you answer that question?
I actually get that question a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, so what hafu are you? Like, I'm just pure Japanese. I always say that, but I've gotten Indonesian, Korean, American, Canadian, Chinese. I got everything. It's really funny, actually. Like, everyone assumes that I'm mixed with some kind of other country for some reason. And I always just respond with, I'm purely Japanese. And I don't know if it's in my face or my voice, but my American friends don't see it, and my Japanese friends assume that I'm hafu. So, I don't know why.
Well, when I first met you, I thought I was hafu as well. Does that make me a bit ignorant?
You thought I was hafu?
Little bit, yeah.
Really? Wait. What hafu did you think I was? I'm curious.
Well, Japanese American. I mean, there's quite a lot of them out there, right?
Really? Like, what, did you see it in my face or my the way I speak? Where did you see it?
Exactly. I mean, I know you're influenced very much by American culture because when it comes to your language, hobbies, the way you're thinking, the sports you play, and how can I say this? It seemed to me that there was a lot of American in you, internally, perhaps.
That's true. Like the hobbies that I like, the way I talk. I have such a Californian accent. A lot of my teachers say that, and yeah, like the things I like, the things I do, the way I think are kind of influenced by American culture, I would say. So I guess a lot of people like kind of see that when they first see me, like, oh, this guy must be mixed with something. He's not purely Japanese, no way. That's low key racist. But how about you? Like, kind of switching the conversation to like racism, like living as a hafu, as your hafu. How is it like? Do you have any kind of experiences you faced as like living in hafu in Japan?
Well, I face bigger problems when I'm with my father because he's pure Hakujin, right? I mean, he's got English and German blood. I mean, he's a half of himself, but nobody can really recognize the differences between those two. So, say my father enters into a hotel. Let's just say it's a guest house somewhere outskirts or maybe in the countryside. And he obviously struggles with the orders and whatever. And so the people who run the hotel think I can only speak English and I'm really ignorant of Japanese culture, whatever. So they try to talk to me in English and I'm always confused, right? Because I expect them to speak in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you actually speak Japanese. That's really great. I don't have to think about
like what I say
talking English or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
So like when you go places with your father, you guys both basically look like you can't speak Japanese, and a lot of people assume that basically, and you have like
that basically.
Are you annoyed by that?
It can be because, first of all, even my dad looks like American, if you're in Japan, I think it's good courtesy if you talk to them in Japanese first and foremost, and then if you suss out, maybe my English is better than his Japanese, then there's a lot of respect there.
That's true.
But when you start with English, I mean, it just gives the impression that, you know, he's not part of Japanese culture, even though he's my father's lived in Japan for 30 years. So he knows something about Japan, right? I mean, he studied Japanese history, for goodness sake, at university for about 1 or 2 years to do his MA. So he knows his stuff, right?
Okay.
So that really annoys him, and it can get to me as well sometimes.
Okay, so they should first speak in Japanese, and if they do understand it, just continue on with that. If they don't, and then English. That would be, you know.
That would be my proposal.
Yeah, that would be very respectful. Yeah, that's true. And this is my like kind of experience living in America. It's kind of like connected to your experience. When I would go to the mall and stuff, and I would speak like fluent English, they would be surprised, and they would be like, "Oh, you can speak English very well." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. I lived in America, like since I was like born. So basically, I can." And I guess because of my appearance here in Japan, a lot of people assume that I'm hafu, but in America, of course, everyone thinks I'm 100% Asian. So they're correct, but I don't think they understand there's people that lived in America who are Asian, and I feel like they're very narrow-minded, and they don't really think about that. And there's a lot of Asian Americans out there now, so I think they're kind of understanding it now, slowly, but that kind of experience did bother me. It was like, yeah, like, haven't you seen or met an Asian who can speak English fluently? There's a lot of Asians in California, especially. That's like one of the reasons California was so fun to me, because I felt comfortable, because there was a lot of Asian people, and I felt included. It's not like I only had Asian friends, but they're a lot more accepting. And
right,
like some of my friends in high school, you might know this, some of my friends lived in other states outside of California, and they explained that there is a lot of racism in like towards Asians especially, and they had a lot of experience facing those kind of Asian stereotypes, racist jokes and stuff. And I heard that, and I was like, oh, I was very privileged, and I was very lucky to be living in such a place that was so accepting. So yeah, that was like my small experience.
Anyways, so your Asian friends gave you more of a comfortable surrounding, although you did make friends that were not Asian. How can you say, was there any tension between your Asian counterparts and the non-Asian counterparts? I mean, you said there were racist incidents.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that a bit more, please?
Like I said in episode 4, every week, every Wednesday, all of my Japanese friends would hang around at a park. And this is mainly because all of my, all the parents were Japanese, and you know how Asian parents are. They're like, hisashiburi, like nice, like haven't seen a long time, no see. And, they get along, so all the kids get along as well. And that kind of chemistry between the parents didn't really exist between my Japanese parents and, for my American friends' parents. And one of my friends had a Japanese mom, and she was great friends with an American mom because, they were neighbors. And I think that was a really good thing for them because, they were neighbors. I don't think they would have been that close if they weren't neighbors. But, I think parents in like living with you as a child and connecting with like other different races is a really big part of it, especially when you're Asian. You know how Asian parents are. So
Mama Tomo, as it likes to be called.
Yeah. And other racist experiences, I wouldn't say racist, but would you say stereotypes are racist? Or are they just a different category?
It depends on how you apply it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I mean, stereotypes, they do exist for a reason, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you apply it with malicious intent, then things can get nasty quick.
That is true. And yeah, like you said, it comes from some truth. That's why the stereotype has been made in the first place. Like Asians being good at math, the education system mainly focuses on, math and stuff, so more than other countries. That's statistically true. And, I might get
Facts.
I might get some, angry people at me, but, Asians, what other stereotypes do we have? Like chopsticks.
Not good at driving.
Yeah, not good at driving. And I don't know where that came from. I mean, I don't really see that. I feel like, okay, this is my reasoning. I just thought of it, but Japan, for example, have very narrow, small roads, and it takes a lot more skill. Okay, so in America, the roads, there are like 4 lanes on each side. So there's 4 huge ass lanes. So you don't really, come on, like, you just have to hold the handle. And me driving in Japan, there's like really narrow roads. You have to watch out for pedestrians walking around. And, I feel like there's a lot more people walking around the sidewalks in Japan compared to America. So I guess there's more, accidents. But if people say Asians are bad at driving in America, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. They should be, I mean, you could kind of say they're taught in English. That's not their native language. You could say all that. But, if that's a stereotype, I don't really know how that stereotype came about. But other stereotypes, like eating noodles, eating rice, using chopsticks, they're facts. Come on. People are offended by, dude, you use chopsticks, huh? Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Dude, you use forks, huh? That's basically saying to American, dude, you use forks to eat? What a loser. You're just basically saying that. You're just stating facts. So, yeah.
Should there be a war between the chopstick gang and the fork gang?
Yeah, there should.
And the 1 month challenge, if you're fork gang, you gotta eat everything by fork. And then the same thing.
Dude, Asians are gonna
with
win.
Chopsticks.
Dude, Asians have some technique with the chopsticks. I got some good handles with the chopsticks, man. There's like a rice, not rice, like a bean competition. I'm like, oh shit, that's so Asian. But like there's like a bowl of beans in one bowl, an empty bowl on the other. And you like move the beans one by one and see who can like move it the fastest. And oh my god, that's so Asian, huh? And the stereotypes come from some facts. And this kind of I kind of want to talk about Ryan Higa. Do you know him?
Mm-hmm, of course.
He talks about this topic on like a video pretty like 5 years ago, I'd say, about stereotypes. And he talks about how stereotypes come from facts and it's been exaggerated. And some facts you need to accept, and some facts are actually compliments, he was saying. Like, for example, Asians are good at math. That's a compliment. Come on, just take it. Asians have high IQ. They're smart. Just take the compliment. If you're dumb as fuck, it's a compliment. And he was talking about his experience in like living in America. I think he was born in Hawaii. He's like half Hawaiian, half Japanese or something. I don't remember.
Oh.
But he was living in California, Las Vegas, I believe. And when he plays street basketball, everyone on the other team passes it to the wrong Asian and says, "Oh, I thought you were the Jeremy Lin on my team." And Jeremy Lin is a, Chinese basketball player, NBA basketball player. So Asians who play basketball equal Jeremy Lin. That's like basically saying to a black guy you're LeBron James, to a white guy you're Luka Doncic. That's basically what you're saying. And you know, I feel like this is kind of I'm kind of ranting, but uh Asians are like the punching bag, and when you say that to a black guy, for example, if an Asian guy, imagine if an Asian guy in basketball says, "Oh," he passes it to the wrong dude, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you were the LeBron James on my team." He's gonna get like beat the fuck up. He's not gonna exist. Like he's gonna die. Like everyone's gonna kill him. So I feel like that kind of stuff, Asians are just beat down. Yeah.
But isn't it true that, well, I gotta be careful with my words here. I wouldn't say they like getting beaten, but
Oh boy, you better watch.
cancelled. No, but there are certain things that Asian people seem to be able to accept much more so than others. For example,
Mhm.
I'm not an expert in, I forgot the word, affirmative action or anything. But it seemed to me that Asians living in America, what they most care about, I know this sounds stereotypical, is about, university entries.
Mhm.
Because for Harvard example, I mean, even though the population of Asian Americans is so tiny, compared to that, the population of Harvard
Mhm.
students is very, very high, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
And so, um, when they try to sort of, how can I say, um, make a change in the quota for the races, it was the Asian community that put this proposal forward that this is racist and whatever. And I'm gonna give a name here, which is Hassan Minaj. He's a comedian. He's half Indian, half Sacramento dude, right? And I like the show on Netflix. It's cancelled now. Rest in peace. Anyway, his joke was that, you know, Asians get beaten down of, oh, you stink of kimchi, you stink of curry, you can't drive, you're short, whatever. But as soon as they say, oh, you can't go into Harvard, all the Asians just like, I'm gonna see you in court, motherfuckers, alright? So, and I didn't know what to respond to that because it seemed pretty accurate. So, it seems to me that as long as the Asians are able to keep this, being smart, being good boys, stereotype intact, it doesn't seem to matter what else comes towards them, if you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
It seems to be like there's some stereotype that they like to cling on to, if that makes sense.
I mean, you say cling on to, but those kids are just raised in a family where their parents are like, you have to get to this university, you have to get these kinds of grades. So it's just like beat into them. So, if for say that Asian kid was adopted by an American family, I don't think that kid would live and have such expectations toward himself. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's just how you're raised, basically. Like you have to, like, Asian parents being strict is a known thing, and being like, you have to get the good grades, you have to go to university, you have to be a doctor. That's what like every single Asian parent basically says. And
Exactly, but you could also flip that and say, well, you should let the kids make their choices, or else you're sort of perpetuating at least one aspect of your stereotype, right?
But parents aren't thinking about that though. They're just living off of their culture. So they're not going to be like, okay, you can live as you will. They're probably just going to, like, naturally, even if they don't mean it, like they accidentally just be like, okay, can you get good grades, or else I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And it's not, I feel like how parents are raised, okay, so if my parent was raised like strictly by my grandparents, she's gonna pass that on, basically. pass down that, strict parenting and wanting the kid to succeed. That's basically the goal of a parent. So, that's probably what they're trying to focus on, especially Asian parents. Not that I'm saying that other parents, other races don't think about that, but I feel like Asian parents are just strict between like their future, like college and work.
Right, exactly. So, how can I say? Of course, there are some stereotypes that people want to get rid of, but I think it's also important to note that there are stereotypes that people are perpetuating by themselves, right? They're sort of encouraging by themselves, if you see what I mean. It's not from outside sources, outside forces rather, but from their own.
So like basically, for example, in a classroom, there's one Asian kid, and if there's a math competition, if he wins that, he's kind of supporting the fact that Asians are good at math, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really help it, does it?
Yeah, it really doesn't. But I feel like it's something you can't avoid because, like I said, stereotypes do come from some facts. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I guess you can say that's a kind of different and interesting perspective. Like, they're kind of generating it and supporting it by themselves unintentionally, basically.
Exactly. So this is just me looking from the outside, but it seems to me that there are some stereotypes people don't mind getting rid of, that they're happy that it exists. If they take it as a compliment that they're smart, then so be it. That's fine. But there seem to be certain stereotypes that are appreciated much more so than others.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And welcome back to part 2 of episode 5. And this time we're going to shift it back to racism in Japan, living as a hafu. And I feel like I have a decent amount of friends that are hafu, or just non-Japanese, I would say. And they told me a lot of experiences they faced as a child and even what they face right now. And one of my friends, I'm not going to say their name, but he lives...
Just give a pseudonym. I like pseudonyms.
Let's call him Charles.
Charles.
Okay, so Charles is half American, half Japanese. He lives in a rural area right now, and right now he's kind of realizing that there's not a lot of half people, especially in rural areas. And urban areas like Tokyo, there's a lot of foreigners, there's a lot of non-Japanese, there's a lot of hafu, a lot of a diverse population, I would say, compared to rural areas. And where he's living, there's only strictly Japanese people. And he kind of texted me. He was saying, living in this place feels like, he's the only one. He feels like a celebrity, basically, what he was saying.
Really?
Yeah, everyone turns heads. And he has, he went with his family there. And, basically his whole family is hafu. And except for his parents, of course. But, he has other siblings, and they get looks all the time. And he was always saying everyone keeps looking at him. Like you said, when he speaks Japanese, they're like, oh, Nihongo jozu, basically meaning, oh, you're really good at Japanese. So they have the expectation, because of his looks, he can't speak Japanese fluently. And he keeps saying, like you said, that's a reoccurring thing. It's really annoying. And he's bothered by that. And, since I don't get, and I look Japanese, living in Japan, some people say I look hafu, but they don't talk to me in other languages. They don't say, oh, you're Japanese very well, good. But he keeps, getting those comments because of his
Mm.
looks. And like you said, people should speak in Japanese, test it out, test the waters, and then, oh, he can speak Japanese? Oh, okay, cool. And then you just go on with that. But like forcefully uh, speaking English and uh, them speaking Japanese back to you and saying, "Oh, your Japanese is really good." That's like low key offense. You're saying it as a compliment, but like that's low key offensive if someone has like you lived in Japan your whole life. Like you, of course you know Japanese. Do you? Yeah. You want to say that back to them, and like he's in college right now, and he says when he goes to college and tries to make friends, they're very fascinated. They're like, "Oh wow, you speak Japanese and English? You're bilingual? You must be really, really smart." And he's like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And he talks about his experiences, and you get a lot of like, it's a positive thing when you go to college and try to make friends. You know, they're fascinated by you. And, you know, I mean, you could say that's a kind of negative thing. You could say things like, oh, it's going to be, they're only here because you're different. They're only, you know, not because of your personality, or you could say negative things like that. But I think it's a positive thing. You know, people are interested in you because you're different, quote unquote. So, you know, those kinds of experiences I hear a lot. That's just one of my friends. And I have a lot of other people that experience that kind of stuff because of my college. A lot of people like hafu gather and like go to this university. So, and some of you may know what university I'm talking about.
Again, with the feeling like a celebrity comment, you can either apply it with positive connotations or negative connotations. Is that what you're saying?
Uh, yeah, that as well. Like he he keeps saying that when he's just riding his bike trying to go to this supermarket, he gets a lot of looks. He's like, when he goes to a cash register, the oba-chan, the old lady there at the register is like,
Babushka.
is like, wow, you're so tall, you're so handsome. And those are all compliments. And at the last second, they say, you're so good at Japanese, just ruins everything, basically. And yeah, that's one of my friends. And if I talk about my other friend, let's call her Jessica. So Jessica is also half American, half Japanese. And like you, George, has lived in Japan for her whole life, basically. And she gets comments just like Charles, and gets looks, and, you know, but I don't think, I never heard her like say like, I was told your Japanese is really good. Like, I don't think she experienced that kind of stuff. I don't know why, because she kind of looks Japanese. She looks like a hafu. But Charles, on the other hand, looks white, but it's kind of complicated. But if he goes to America, he looks hafu. You get what I'm saying? Like the place you're living in and the people you're surrounded by changes your perspective and your, you know, looks so much. And it was like fascinating, like for me as well. Like I said, going to America, hella Asian. In Japan, oh, you might be hafu. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you never seen as someone. Well, you can always be part of the group that you mentioned, but then again, you always have this sort of gaze that you can feel that as if you're outsider. That maybe not outside's a bit much, but you can always feel the distinction between, you know, the natives or the homelanders, whatever you call it, and then yourself, right? It it just depends on how well you can take that distinction imposed by others, whether you're in Japan or US, whatever.
Yeah, and this is something that I learned in college. One of my professors was saying that Japan is he's a white, fully white teacher, and he's like, living in Japan, he's lived in Japan for like 30 plus years, like your dad, and he was saying Japan is such a homogenous country that, you know, they don't accept, quote unquote, other foreign and non-Japanese people. That's why, like, a lot of Japanese give a lot of looks. And in America, for example, there's a lot of races. There's, you know, all the races you can think of, like just walking down the street. So that makes it more comfortable. And if you go to like other states besides California and like New York and around there, you know, this might trigger some people, but I feel like it's kind of homogenous, and they're not as accepting as other states, you know. So there's kind of a difference in states there as well.
Well, I mean, was it 98% people living in Japan are Japanese?
Really?
So, I think so. I mean, stats or something like that. Don't quote me on that, thank you. But, yeah, exactly. So, if you're not Japanese, that makes you an anomaly. Whether that's in Tokyo or somewhere else. It's just that, how can I say? When a normal Japanese... Again, this is controversial. But let's just say you're 100% Japanese, right? Your whole life, your elementary school, junior high school, whatever, you're gonna have Japanese friends, you're gonna see Japanese people on daily, and the only times you see people that don't have any relations to Japan are your like ECC or Aeon teachers, or some, how can I say, superstars on the TV, right? So it's very difficult to have any enduring relationships, like concrete relationships, that have something other than Japanese blood relations, whatever you call it.
Mm.
And so, perhaps this is a radical thing to say, but to overcome this hurdle of looks and weird questions and compliments, perhaps immigration is the key. I mean, of course, there will be lots of different problems if we have mass immigration. I mean, that's well documented, of
This
course.
is a really big topic, huh? Immigrants in Japan. Okay, go on.
Exactly. But in terms of just focusing on sort of loosening this distinction between Japanese and non-Japanese, you got to make it less homogeneous, or else it's just going to make it difficult all the time. I have felt like that for a long time now, I must say.
I agree.
It's not really anybody's fault. What can you do? I mean, you're only going to see Japanese people all the time, right?
Yeah, and just, it's like, yeah, like you said, like the stats, I think it's true, 98% only Japanese. And there's one more story that like shocked me. It's one of my black friends. He's living in Japan. I think he lived here for like 2 years now. And so he lives in a house, and he went outside one day.
Tommy, let's give a name, sorry.
Let's go with Daniel.
Daniel.
Okay, so
excellent. Thank you.
Daniel goes outside, right? He gets out of his house and sees, I think, 2 kids just playing around. Let's say like third graders. They're like playing around with like soccer balls and stuff. And he decides, you know, oh, that looks like fun. He's a really friendly kind of guy, very social, and he was just playing pass with them, and the kids were loving it. And then out of nowhere, the 2 parents came, and they're like, no, that's dangerous. And they're like, abunai. They're like, dangerous. And then the 2 parents take the kids and like go back inside. And he was like shocked. And he like legit contemplated like getting out of Japan because of that.
Right, sure.
And, you know, imagine like you going outside, just playing like simple passing with some kids, and parents come and take the child away because they think you're dangerous. Like, that really shocked me, and I was like, wow, Japan is very racist. And
it can be like that, yeah.
And, you know, it's not really mentioned, but Japan is a very, very racist country. That is
Ooh,
my.
it's out there, man. It's out there. He said
I
it.
know.
He said it.
I feel like Japan is a very racist country because, like we said, it's a homogenous country. They don't accept other like races that much, and Japan has this like bubbly. So Japan has this bubbly image from other countries, anime, all that fun stuff. But
Soft power. Yeah.
yeah, but for some reason, Japan, they give you weird looks, uh, and there's a word for foreigners. It's called gaikokujin, and yeah,
Gaijin,
gaijin.
basically.
And some clubs, I heard one YouTuber, Vicstar, he came to Japan, and he explained that he tried to go into a club in Tokyo or something, and he was denied because there was a sign that said no gaijin, no foreigners allowed, which was like
Yeah.
pretty shocking. And there's a lot of signs in Tokyo that says like, if you're gaijin you can't go in, and like for clubs I don't know why, but do you know the reason why there's like signs like that?
Well, I mean, my father's had many, many experiences like that. Well, maybe many, many is a bit exaggerated, but let's just say quite a few. I mean, when I traveled to Atami City, so which is somewhere in between Shizuoka and Tokyo, it's a spa town.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a sign saying, if you're incompetent in the proficiency of Japanese language, we might refuse entry and stuff like
Really?
that. So I have seen it myself.
Wow.
The theory put forward by my father is that, especially in the club or restaurant, something busy, and there's a lot of back and forth between the customers and the workers. They don't want people stalling because they don't know Japanese, customers and workers, whatever. So they want easy, quick Japanese, orders given, right? And they don't want to think in any other language. Whether that's true or not, I mean, that needs debating, but that's one possible reason for all these rather racist signs.
Well, you could just write another menu, like on the back, you could just write it in English or something, and that would just solve everything, right? Or
Well, even if you point it out, the waiter would have to think that back into Japanese. That's what they would argue.
it's a really weird kind of sign. I never heard of that one. And this kind of like shifts to tattoos. And you probably know what I'm going to say. Like
Okay.
tattoos, they're not allowed in onsen, hot springs.
Spas.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
hot springs, and they're not allowed in public pools. And this is the reason why is because Japanese culture, like back how many years ago?
Let's give a random number. 250.
Okay, some time ago, they were yakuza, and
Mafioso.
yeah.
Yes.
So those kinds of people had tattoos, and Japanese people think that if you have a tattoo, you're part of a gang, so therefore you can't enter an onsen or a public pool because of that. And some of my friends in college have tattoos, and they have to hide it, or they can't get in. They're denied when they try to go into an onsen, or they try to like go to a pool, which is very annoying when we're trying to go to a pool together. And I feel like it's 2021. That's such like far back. Like no one's actually in a gang just because you have a tattoo. That's the same thing as being racist. If you have a tattoo, you're a bad person. That's basically what they're saying. And I really feel like Japan should fix that. And I believe for the 2020 Olympics, they were planning on letting people with tattoo get an onsen in public pools, I believe. Is that correct?
Well, that was the plan, but I'm saying because the possibilities that there won't be any, fans coming in outside Japan.
Yeah, now
right?
now because of
I mean,
COVID.
it's such a shame in that sense as well, because if there were fans coming in from all over the world, these conversations would have been debated, across the whole country. People will realize, hold on, maybe our culture is a little bit backward. Maybe we need to do some reform. There would have been a big, nice platform to talk about these things, but without these fans, all of that is gone, right?
Yeah.
So it seems as if there won't be any progress. The chance, at least, to have any progress is lost.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, if the Olympics actually happened in Tokyo, a lot of foreigners came, that probably would have opened some eyes for Japanese people. That would have
Exactly.
that would have been a really good experience for Japan, but it's a shame that, it's not going to happen and it's just going to stay this way. It really is. And that's a really good point that, Japan needs that kind of experience. They need to realize that they're really homogenous. They're not really accepting. And I don't know why. It's just part of the culture, I guess. Japan has such a unique culture that I guess they don't want to change it or damage it if you say it in a really weird way. And yeah, I guess they have this really strong ego, perhaps, that, that's been bothering me for so long, that, they're not accepting to other races, cultures, and, they're always just not accepting, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
It has been quite a shift in tone, hasn't it, in the other episodes?
Yeah, kind of passionate. Like, you feel this way too, right? Like, being hafu, living in Japan, having a white father. You have, had those kinds of experiences. So I think some people listening can relate to this. And some people may even, be hafu listening and living in other countries. And, if you're planning to come to Japan, you have to have that kind of mindset, and you should do some research before, because, some things you may not be able to do because of your race, and it's just how it is. I don't know why.
And please tell us your experiences of race and culture and all of that. And please don't send spam messages.
That would be great. If you made it this far, once again, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and there will be more to come. And, if you have any suggestions, about topics or anything, if you want us to talk about, we would be very happy to talk about it.
Any comments would be appreciated.
Yeah. And, we have another YouTube channel, DT Shorts. We have some funny clips here and there that are about, let's say, 10 seconds to 1 minute long, just quick and funny. So check that out as well.
Take care.
And peace.